the government's decision to work with farmers to price their emissions by 2030, and it's been welcomed by the industry. The law change will stop farmers being charged through the emission trading scheme, which offsets credits against emitting. It is scrapping the sector-led group He Waka Eke Noa and is setting up a new pastoral sector group to constructively tackle biogenic methane. I mean, just even look at the names, right? Pastoral Sector Group, replacing He Waka Eke Noa. Anyway, I digress. It will amend the Cultural Change Response Act to remove agricultural, animal processors and fertiliser companies from entering the ETS in 2025. Not surprisingly, Federated Farmers, Beef and Lamb and Dairy NZ have all welcomed the decision. ACT said the announcement recognised farmers as the backbone of our economy, and the party's rural community spokesman is Mark Cameron, and he joins me now. G'day, Mark.
Hey, Leah, how are we?
Oh, little shaky start to the show, Mark. Some little bit of a technical issues.
Technological problems, I hear. Yeah. Look, I apologise quickly for the background noise in that field day.
I know. Awesome. We're going to get to that. You don't get that on the farm, technical hitches. Anyway, Mark, along with Andrew Hoggard, you are two of the only farmers in Parliament. So, you guys are the ones to talk to. First of all, what was the issue that farming had been going through the ETS?
Well, I think you'd make the point, Leah. Farmers in general felt lambasted by the left, and I've heard some of your commentary just opening now. And I think it's been well canvassed. The genuine problem was that farmers felt aggrieved that they were going to go into a taxable regime with so many unknowns. I mean, the wool sector had heard that 1 in 5 of them were going to go out of business if what was when we were all in the waka together went through. I mean, that's one example. A percentage of dairy farms and beef farms were no longer fiscally tenable. And I'd make the point, when you add that in, we, the audience, add that in when we hear it, as New Zealand being the most efficient farmers in the world, and I'm not an apologist for saying that, you've only got to look at the angst on the back of it, and by virtue, as sitting politicians, we listened, we learnt from that, and certainly we campaigned on being, you might say, the voice of reason to stop it happening. Now, farmers not going into the ETS is a wonderful thing, and I've sort of stressed the point, the calculables, the mathematics, the numbers that needed to be reconciled about what was New Zealand's contribution, what was the primary industry's contribution in terms of biogenic methane, and then all the offsets to it was so routinely not considered. Those numbers weren't in there, and by virtue of that, you've got a farming fraternity community that has said, the previous lot said, we're going to tax you, and a cohort of you are going to go out of business, and they said enough is enough, and they spoke and voted with their feet, and here we are.
There you are. Now, although I will say, Mark, the previous government says they struck new and upgraded trade deals, they believe that offshore buyers demand products that are produced sustainably. Is there any risk to our competitive advantage?
Yeah, well, that's a fair and honest question. Now, I've asked Damien O'Connor in his former role as the Minister of Trade, when he made those assertions, Damien questioned, quote, have you ever monetised that? No, I haven't, he would say. And I said, well, I make the point. We are where we sit today as the most efficient farmers in the world, as I've just said. We're 40% ahead in terms of our emissions profile of our nearest, you might say, competitors. And in a global environment, we've got some natural advantages and disadvantages. Our one disadvantage is that we're at the bottom of the world and we trade north of here. But we've got a hell of a good product and people manufacture it to sell. Our Providence story is something we should be so immensely proud of. And the fact that the Minister in his former role had never expressly monetised that, it was a, you might say, theorem in kind. If we don't do this stuff, we lose market access. Well, I maintain we're already in that market. We will continue to innovate to find solutions to, the world's ongoing problems, of which we're part of that community. And the provenance of our product is so good, I have far less concerns than the former minister did.
So He Waka Eka Noa is gone and a pastoral sector group will be set up. Mark, can you tell us who will develop the terms of reference of this new group, who they'll be?
Yeah, well, I can't expressly say who will all be involved, but I make the point, Leah. A lot of the people that were otherwise not involved will now be in the room.
Yeah.
Farmer advocate groups, obviously you're going to have beef and lamb, dairy and Z, the federated farmers. There will be other NGOs and interest groups that are involved, and farmers themselves. I mean, gracious me, I don't mean to sort of over-litigate the point, but Kiwi farmers are bloody good people and they're damnably common-sensed. And I think in this instance, Leah, and I mean to the listeners listening, it would be so nice if those people have a say about their future. And I think in this instance, they absolutely will. And we'll all start from the premise of what is, quote, what is the, the question we're asking ourselves, what is the problem? And by virtue of costs, outweighing the benefits, perhaps we shouldn't be doing this stuff. And I think the culmination of... Yeah, Carrie,
sorry, Mark. No, I was just going to say, I agree with you. I mean, farmers, it's in their best interest to be carbon efficient food producers. If they're not working hard at doing it, they are ruining their own product. But But can the country still meet its emissions obligations?
Absolutely, we absolutely can, and I think we'll make a couple of very salient points in our